The polished glass lobby of Sterling Innovations buzzed with executives, investors, and employees preparing for the company's annual billion-dollar partnership announcement. Luxury cars lined the entrance while television crews waited outside for interviews. With the famous Billionaire CEO, Victoria Sterling. Inside the crowded lobby stood Daniel Carter, a humble single father wearing a faded brown jacket and neatly pressed jeans. Beside him was his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, holding his hand tightly while clutching her favorite teddy bear. Daniel had traveled across the city for a scheduled meeting with the procurement department, hoping to secure a small transportation contract for his struggling delivery company. It wasn't a glamorous business, but after losing his wife 5 years earlier, every contract meant another month of keeping a roof over Lily's head. Daniel taught his daughter that honesty and hard work mattered more than wealth, and despite the hardships they faced, he never stopped believing that kindness would eventually be rewarded. As Daniel waited patiently near the reception desk, a loud alarm suddenly echoed through the lobby. Security doors locked automatically and confused employees looked around in panic. Within seconds, security officers rushed toward a display case, where an expensive diamond-encrusted prototype storage drive, worth millions of dollars, had disappeared. The head of security quickly reviewed nearby surveillance footage. The blurry video appeared to show Daniel standing near the display moments before the alarm sounded. Without asking questions or investigating further, security officers surrounded him. Lily clung to her father's arm in fear as one officer ordered Daniel to raise his hands. "There must be some mistake," Daniel calmly explained. "I never touched anything." His words were ignored. At that very moment, Victoria Sterling descended the grand staircase surrounded by executives. Elegant in a tailored light blue business suit, she looked at Daniel with cold disappointment. "So this is the man who thought he could steal from my company," she said loudly enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. Hundreds of employees turned to watch as whispers spread through the crowd. Daniel remained calm, repeating that he was innocent. But Victoria had already made up her mind. Police officers arrived within minutes. Lily began crying as they placed handcuffs on her father's wrists. "Please don't take my daddy," she begged through tears. But no one seemed willing to listen. Victoria folded her arms confidently and watched as Daniel was escorted toward the entrance. Reporters outside immediately pointed cameras at the scene, broadcasting images of the suspected thief being led away from the Billionaire's headquarters. Before stepping into the police car, Daniel looked down at Lily and smiled gently despite the humiliation. "Everything will be okay," he whispered. "The truth always finds its way." Then he turned to one of the officers and quietly asked, "May I make one phone call?" The officer nodded. Daniel calmly dialed a single number from memory. When the call connected, he spoke only one sentence. "Michael, it's Daniel. I need you at Sterling Innovations." On the other end of the line, the voice fell silent for a moment before replying, "I'm leaving now." Daniel ended the call without saying another word. Victoria watched the exchange with a confident smile, believing the mysterious phone call would change nothing. She had no idea that Michael Grant wasn't an ordinary friend. He was the chairman of the world's largest private investment consortium, the organization that secretly financed more than 60% of Sterling Innovations' global expansion. Within the next hour, one decision, one phone call, and one forgotten friendship would begin unraveling the billion-dollar empire Victoria had spent her entire life building. The police car had barely pulled away from Sterling Innovations when a convoy of black luxury SUVs rolled into the company's headquarters. Employees standing near the entrance watched in confusion as nearly a dozen vehicles stopped in perfect formation. Men and women in tailored business suits stepped out, followed by an older gentleman whose presence immediately commanded attention. His name was Michael Grant, chairman of the Global Horizon Investment Group, one of the most powerful investment firms in the world. Every executive in the financial industry recognized him instantly. Even Victoria Sterling's confident smile disappeared when she saw him walking toward the building. She hurried forward with several board members, expecting to welcome one of the company's most important investors. Instead of shaking her hand, Michael walked past her without saying a word. His expression was calm, but his eyes revealed unmistakable disappointment. "Where is Daniel Carter?" he asked. Victoria replied confidently. "He was arrested for stealing company property." "The police have already taken him away." Michael slowly closed his eyes as if absorbing. Terrible news. When he opened them again, his voice was cold. "Then you've made the biggest mistake of your career." The lobby fell silent. Employees exchanged nervous glances while television reporters continued filming outside. Victoria frowned. "I'm afraid you don't understand the situation," she replied. "We have security. Footage proving he committed theft." Michael looked directly at the head of security. "Bring me the complete surveillance recording, not the edited clip." Within minutes, technicians displayed footage from every security camera on the enormous lobby screen. This time, everyone watched the events from beginning to end. The truth became painfully clear. Moments before the alarm sounded, another executive quietly removed the prototype storage drive and slipped it into a briefcase while Daniel was helping Lily pick up her dropped teddy bear several feet away. The short video shown earlier had been cropped, making Daniel appear suspicious while hiding the real thief. Gasps echoed through the lobby. The head of security turned pale. Victoria stared at the screen in disbelief. She had publicly accused an innocent man without waiting for a complete investigation. Before anyone could speak, police officers received new instructions over their radios. Daniel Carter was immediately released, and investigators arrested the senior executive whose corruption had finally been exposed. Michael turned toward Victoria, his voice calm but firm. "Daniel Carter isn't just my oldest friend. 15 years ago, when my investment company was on the verge of bankruptcy, Daniel personally invested every dollar he had saved to keep us alive. He never asked for recognition. He simply believed good people deserved another chance. Today, Global Horizon manages hundreds of billions of dollars because one honest man chose kindness over profit." The room remained silent as Michael continued. "For years, Daniel refused executive positions, choosing instead to raise his daughter after losing his wife. He asked only one thing of me, that I never reveal what he had done. But today you humiliated him in front of the world, without giving him the respect every innocent person deserves." Just then, Daniel quietly walked back into the lobby after being released by the police. Lily ran into his arms as tears streamed down her face. Daniel hugged her tightly before looking toward Victoria. She slowly walked forward, her confidence completely gone. "Mr. Carter," she whispered. "I was wrong." Daniel nodded politely but said nothing. Michael then addressed the Sterling Board of Directors. "Effective immediately, Global Horizon Investment Group is canceling every financing agreement with Sterling Innovations. Every active investment, every pending acquisition, every line of credit ends today." The announcement struck like lightning. Board members stood frozen in disbelief. Without Global Horizon's funding, Sterling Innovations would lose billions within days. Stock markets reacted instantly as financial news spread across the country. Investors began pulling out. Partners suspended negotiations, and the company that once seemed untouchable started collapsing before everyone's eyes. Victoria finally understood that Daniel's single phone call hadn't been made to seek revenge. It had simply reached the one person whose trust and loyalty could never be bought with money. The news spread across the financial world faster than anyone inside Sterling Innovations could have imagined. Within hours of Global Horizon Investment Group withdrawing its support, the company's stock price plunged. Television networks interrupted regular programming to report that one of the country's largest corporations had lost its biggest investor. Banks froze billions of dollars in pending loans. International partners suspended negotiations, and several major clients canceled contracts worth hundreds of millions. Inside the executive boardroom, directors argued desperately as lawyers and financial advisors searched for a solution that no longer existed. Victoria Sterling stood silently near the floor-to-ceiling, windows overlooking the city she had once ruled with confidence. Everything she had spent 20 years building was collapsing, not because of a market crash or a competitor, but because she had judged one innocent man without giving him the chance to speak. For the first time in her career, she realized that arrogance could destroy what intelligence alone could never protect. Meanwhile, Daniel Carter sat quietly with Lily in a nearby park. sharing ice cream on a wooden bench as though nothing extraordinary had happened. Reporters searched the city hoping for an interview, but Daniel declined every request. "I don't want revenge," he told Michael. "Grant, I only wanted the truth." Michael smiled. "That's why you've always been the better man." Later that afternoon, Victoria requested a private meeting with Daniel. She arrived alone without security, cameras, or assistants. Her confident business persona had disappeared. Sitting across from Daniel, she lowered her eyes and quietly said, "For years I believed success gave me the right to trust my own judgment above everyone else's. Yesterday, I destroyed an innocent man's reputation in front of the entire world. I can never undo that." Daniel looked at her calmly before replying, "Everyone makes mistakes. The difference between a good leader and a bad one is whether they're willing to admit them." Victoria nodded as tears filled her eyes. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." Daniel smiled gently. "Forgiveness isn't earned by power or money. It's earned by changing." The following week, Victoria held a live press conference. Standing before hundreds of journalists, she publicly admitted that Daniel Carter had been completely innocent and accepted full responsibility for her actions. She apologized to Daniel, to Lily, and to every employee for allowing assumptions to replace truth. She also announced her resignation as CEO, explaining that leadership required humility as much as success. The board appointed new executives who immediately introduced fair investigation policies, employee respect programs, and ethical leadership training to ensure no innocent person would ever again be judged without evidence. Daniel refused every offer to become CEO or accept a multi-million-dollar settlement. Instead, he accepted only enough compensation to expand his small delivery business and create scholarships for single parents trying to build better lives for their children. Michael proudly invested in Daniel's growing company, helping him create hundreds of jobs for hard-working families across the country. Months later, Daniel arrived at the grand opening of his new logistics headquarters, with Lily holding his hand. Employees welcomed every visitor with kindness and respect, remembering the lesson that had changed so many lives. Victoria attended quietly as a guest, congratulating Daniel on his success. There was no bitterness between them anymore, only mutual respect. Born from a painful lesson neither of them would ever forget. As Daniel looked around at the people smiling, working together and treating one another with dignity, he realized true wealth had never been measured by bank accounts or skyscrapers. It was measured by integrity, compassion, and the courage to do what was right even when no one was watching. Lily looked up at her father and smiled. "Daddy, you said the truth always finds its way." Daniel gently squeezed her hand and smiled back. "It always does." Story lesson. Never judge a person before knowing the whole truth. Power without humility can destroy everything you've built. True greatness is measured by character, kindness, and integrity, not by wealth or status.